Hello, I'm Janna and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. This week at the Funkie Junkie, we are playing to the theme of April showers bring May flowers. This challenge is now open from April 6th through April 19th. We are looking for flowers. They could be your main focal point, they could be hiding in the background, or they could be little adornments. We greatly look forward to seeing your wonderful creations. And if you'd like to participate in the challenge, head on over to the Funkie Junkie blog for more details. I will be leaving links down in the description box. So today I am going to be working on a slightly different video. Today I'm going to be shopping my stash and walking you through my thought process. So if you'd like to see some of the materials that I have chosen to work with, go ahead and pause here. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. So today's project, we're going to be doing things just a little bit differently. I've decided that I wanted to walk you through my thought process as I create a project. Now, the first thing that I do when I'm creating for a set theme is to decide what my substrate is going to be. There are so many different things that we could work on. Now, these are a few thoughts that have run through my head, and I'm going to just accumulate a bunch of supplies and then we'll put them together and make some magic. So, one thing that's crossing my mind is using one of the large Tim Holtz etc. tags. This one is pretty big. This is one of the thick board tags. That's definitely a possibility. I've also got a smaller tag set. This could also work. And we have the new Idea-ology vignette boxes, and we have a clipboard. So I'm thinking this is a little bit too big. This is getting to be a good size. And the clipboard, I'm really liking the clipboard. I haven't ever altered one of these before, so I think this is the one that I'm going to go with. So now we have our base, and since we're going to be working with flowers, well, let's go ahead and start pulling out some ideas that are going to have flowers in them. So to do that, I'm going to pull out a bunch of die sets, and I'm going to go through them and pick a few that will be perfect for this project. So we have got brushstroke flowers 2. I've got the small tattered florals. We have bloom colorize, brushstroke flowers number 3, brushstroke flowers number 1. Oh, this says spring, so that's definitely a possibility. We've got Oliver, and sticking along the lines of spring, we also have the bird and egg colorized die set, and I also have some garden greens for foliage. So I'm kind of thinking right now, looking at all of these different choices, that I want to have a lot of flowers outlining my project. I'm thinking flowers kind of going along the sides and coming down into the base with some sort of focal point in the middle. So definitely gonna need some garden greens because these are great filler pieces. Set that aside. Flowers. Okay. This one isn't really like the others, and I kind of want to have a cohesive look, so that one, not today. And looking at these, this is probably going to be way too big. This is one of the giant brushstroke flowers, so we'll set that one aside. These two should be just the right size. I've got a few different sizes of flowers, and I've got some little leaves that are going to make some excellent fodder. So we'll put those onto the side. And looking at these, I'm also thinking about a focal point. Not quite sure what I want to do as a focal point yet. I know I definitely would like to work with an egg, but the question is, what else would go really well with that? So while thinking spring, the paper cut chicks Colorize definitely comes to mind. And we also have bunny games. I did use this recently, so maybe not bunny games. We also have Carrot Bunny. That one is very cute. So I'm thinking I want to go with the chicks and the egg. I think that egg could make a really cute focal point between the chicks. This egg is good, but it's a bit small, and I kind of want to go with a larger egg. So we'll use those guys. And I'll set the rest aside. Oh, I think I might need these. I can use up some scrap paper and get some really good filler going. Now, the next question is going to be, what am I going to use for font? Because I definitely want to add a word element, and I'm thinking Hello Spring would be perfect. So for that, I'm going to want to find a word die set. So let's see what I've got in my stash. Okay. So looking at these, I have got the tall, skinny letters. We've got varsity, and we have typeset. Given the space I have on the clipboard, these are going to be too tall. So set those aside. That's not going to work for today. These are good, but again, I think the size might be a little bit big. These are the smallest ones, so they should be the most flexible when I put them onto the substrate. So we will go with these. Okay. Now that I have an idea of what sort of dies I'm going to be using, now I want to start thinking about what colors am I going to be putting onto my substrate. I know that I'm going to be working with the clipboard, but we need to cover the base with something first. So I'm going to just turn the camera and we're going to take a quick look at some options. So the first place I look when I'm looking for inspiration for colors to add to a project, I check my immediate work area. I usually keep things that are newest out and newest release. Like we have the new Distress Glazes here. I've got some of the archival inks over there. We've got the mica spray stains in the back. And I also have Foundry Wax over here in the corner. So just looking at these, I'm thinking I want to pull some of the glazes into the flowers, and I want to stick with really bright pops of color. So that's going to be pretty easy. These will be a great foundation. You can add that into the flowers. And Foundry Wax, well, you know, this is really plain. I'm not liking that so much. It's cool and grungy, but we're going for spring and I want more bright and shiny. So we're going to be altering that with some of the Foundry Wax Gilded. So I'll just put that over here in my corner of supplies. Okay, next let's take a look at some distress paints. Turning over here, I have a cabinet full of Idea-ology and distress paint. So looking down here, we've got a great variety of color, but I want to start my base with something neutral before we start adding in big pops of color. So Speckled Egg, that is very spring-like. That would be a good one. Definitely some picket fence, since I'm laying down kind of a foundation, and weathered wood, that's a good one. And I want one more. Oh, what's this one? Perfect, Stormy Skies. So these 4 distress paints are going to be going into the base to help us with our foundation. Now let's find some elements that have some pictures on them. Looking over here, we have some collage paper. Now that's very spring-like. It's got the birds on it. We've got the florals, but I want something a little bit more subtle. It's grungy. Oh, let's go with that. I can actually color in some of the flowers, and I can also use that as a background element. Perfect. Let's add that to the pile. Next, I'm going to go through my stash of die cuts to see what I already have that's going to fit our theme. Now, one of my favorite things to do is to die cut many things ahead of time. And I keep little bins according to season or holiday. Let me show you a couple of examples. So right here, I have a bin of die cuts, and all of this is Halloween themed. These are things that I cut during the season and then just threw them in here. And if I didn't use it, it just stays in here for next year. All sorts of die cut goodness. So of course, I also have one that is spring themed. So let's go down and take a closer look. So I'm looking for flowers, butterflies, and anything spring-like that might fit my color scheme. So I'm just going to take this, I'm going to pull it out, dump that in here, there we go. And I'm just going to quickly pull elements that might be useful for this project. I'm seeing little hearts here, and I'm thinking that those would be great elements to work with. All right, these three are going to be good, so I'll set those off to the side. And ooh, I've already got some stained florals right here. These could be useful. That'd be a nice little collage element. So I'll just pick those up, set them off to the side. And oh, we've got daisies from Bunny Games. That's good. All right, stuff I don't need, I'm just gonna toss back into the bin. These keys are awesome, but not quite what I'm thinking about for today's project. Okay. Oh, we've got a tattered floral. That will be good. Don't need hearts. Don't need a metal butterfly. Let's see. Oh, I do want a butterfly, but the question is what color is going to look best? It's a good one. I like that. That one could be okay. Ooh, maybe a pink one. That's good. Okay, and I'll choose a purple one just in case. Okay. All right. I'm not going to use all of these, but I like to have choices when I am creating. But I think a butterfly will definitely be a good piece to add. So we'll set those aside as possibilities. All right, flowers. All right, I'm seeing a lot more of the little daisies. Oh, good. I've already got some brushstroke flowers die cut. This one looks like I embellished with some alcohol ink. So we'll just pull the flowers and set them off to the side. Now, we've got tattered florals and we've got stuff from brushstroke flowers and Bunny Games. I'm just going to pile all of these off to the side, and that's going to be a good starting point for some of our pieces. It also means I will have less die cutting to do when I die cut more flowers to fill out different areas of this project. All right, so I'll just pop the rest of these back into the container and we'll continue from there. Oh, wait a minute. I am seeing a few more things. Let's see. Oh, we've got eggs. I forgot I die cut eggs already. Oh, and there's gilding wax on that. Even better. All right, this is definitely going to the pile. All right, scoop the rest of this. Put that in here. And I'll set that off to the side for the next time I need some pre-made pieces. Okay, so we've got plenty of things to work with. Now let's turn our attention and start altering our clipboard. Now, one thing I will note before moving forward, my space looks pretty darn good at the moment. It's looking nice and clean. Well, I want to just let you in on a teeny tiny bit of reality. I do not have nearly as much space as it appears. I've got our potential dice over here. I've got supplies that I'm not using over there. And then we have a whole stack of stuff that I am planning on using. So the reality of the situation is that I'm really working in about 12 inches by 7 inches of space. And the only reason it looks like I've got lots of space to work in is because I have been able to angle the camera at the best possible angle to not catch all of the little extra bits and pieces hanging out in the corners. So if you're a messy crafter, I totally get it. And if you're neat and organized, well, I am utterly envious. I I try and I try, but I usually end up boxing myself into a corner when I create. Okay, so let's go ahead and start altering our clipboard. To start with, I'm going to add some water on here, and we're going to put down some distress paints. I'm starting with some picket fence, and then I'm going to add in a dash of speckled egg. I'm kind of going for a bit of a streaky look, not quite marble, but more weathered. Okay, and next we will go with a dash of stormy skies. Okay, and then a little bit of weathered wood. Oh, it's just occurring to me, but I really should have checked to see if there's a way to get the hardware off. And of course, there is. Okay, I'm gonna pause for a moment and see if I can't get this hardware off before I start moving the paint around. Okay, I managed to get this piece off, so now we can alter the base and not have anything slipping onto the metal. All right, so now I'm just going to spread the distress paint around and we'll see what we get. Again, I'm not really going for a marbled look. I'm just trying to get something weathered-ish and kind of streaky. So we'll see how this works. I'm just using a simple paintbrush to move around the distress paint, and then I will spritz it with some water to get a little bit more flow. Okay, I'm liking this so far. There. All right, I'm feeling pretty happy about this. I'm just going to work my way around and try to get some of the edges. And then we'll just quickly dry this off. Okay, that looks good. So I'll set the paintbrush aside and I'm just going to put this on fast forward while we dry this off. Here is our altered clipboard base. That's looking pretty good. We got some nice streaks going. Now I'm going to set this aside for the moment and we're going to work on altering the hardware of the clipboard. I'm just looking to alter this piece and these two little pieces as well. And to do that, we're going to be playing with some Foundry Wax, and I've decided to go with Gilded. So we'll just give this a good shake, make sure that we can hear the mixing ball. There, the mixing ball is starting to rattle, but I'm going to give this a very vigorous shake to make sure that everything is all nice and incorporated. Okay, so off to the side, I'm going to put some of this down onto the media mat. Bring the camera down a little bit, see if we can't catch a little bit of that in the corner. There we go. Okay, so we're going to put some of this right here. It should be good. And I'm going to give that a moment so that it starts to get just a little bit tacky. Right now this is very fluid. If I spread that out, that should allow it to get a little bit more gloopy. Once it starts to get a little bit gloopy, then I will know it's ready to go onto our substrate. In this case, these metal pieces. Now, Foundry Wax is pretty amazing. It's not at all like alcohol ink, and it's not like paint. There's actual metal in here, and the metal starts to shine after you add heat. So This consistency is getting gloopier. So I think we will start to paint this on. And I think this is probably going to take more than one coat. There's a fairly large surface to cover, and I don't want to miss any of the pieces. I want to see lots of shiny goodness. Okay, so I'm just painting this on with the paintbrush. And I'm trying to apply this fairly thickly on this part. This kind of has the consistency of melted butter right now, but when we start getting something that's closer to peanut butter and toothpaste, we'll know that we don't have too much more time to move the gilding wax around. And as you can see, we've got little bits and pieces that are a bit streaky with the underlying metal, so I just need to brush a bit more foundry wax on to cover that up. And as I said, I can always come back later and do another coat. Oh, and the gilding wax is making that transition to something a bit more brittle. Okay, I'm going to need to heat this first layer because we're starting to get little crumbles on the side. Okay, so we'll give this a moment to dry. As you can see, we've got some little chunkity bits, but that's okay. That's going to disappear as we heat this up. Now I'm taking this bottle and I'm moving it way off to the side so I don't accidentally start to heat that with the embossing tool. Now you could use a Ranger heat tool. That could work, but it won't work as fast as an embossing gun. Now this is all metal and it's going to heat up, so I really do not want my fingers touching the metal piece. Because this is such a big metal piece, I'm just going to take my inky cloth and pull that over a couple of times and use that to hang on to the metal. There, just like that. Okay, so this is dry. You can touch it. Doesn't come off my fingers. So definitely a bit streaky in places, but this should work. We're going to put this on fast forward as we melt the foundry wax. Okay, this isn't a bad start, but it's going to need a second layer. I think I put the foundry wax on too thinly, so we're not getting the really shiny transformation that I was looking for. So I'm just shaking this up again, and we'll add a bit more to the media mat and add on another layer. Okay, so just put that on here. That's drying pretty quickly, so we'll just add a bit more. As we can see right now, it's a very matte finish, and this should in theory be turning into a vibrant shine. So assuming I'm correct that I just didn't have enough foundry wax on, this transformation should be a bit more dramatic. All right, and now it's turning to powder, so time to add some heat. Okay, this time we got the shine that I was expecting. That is looking pretty good. Still have to be careful, this is pretty hot. But I'm just going to finish altering the rest of this off camera, and we'll be back and I'll reassemble the two pieces. Okay, so this is done. Now, instead of reassembling this right away, I think we need to do a bit of collaging on here. Now, our paint is nice and dry, but I want to make sure that I can actually collage around these holes. So we are going to be taking some of the botanical collage paper and tear that into pieces, and then we will collage that over this. So here are our pieces. Let's start collaging. So for this part, we'll go ahead and put it on fast forward while I start spreading some Distress Collage medium over the clipboard. Now that we finished our collage elements, it's time to do a little bit of embellishing. Since this is all black and white, we are free to embellish. Now, I'm going to be working with the Distress embossing pen, and we're going to be pulling in some different Distress embossing glazes. These we're going to use to add some color to our background. This should be a nice bright punch of color. To start with, I'm going to be using the pen and selectively coloring in a few different areas, and then I will add the embossing glaze to these. So let's do one section in real time, and then we'll put this on fast forward to glaze and emboss the rest of these areas. So to start with, I'm just going to be working with some wild honey. We're going to be coloring the interior of this flower, and we're going to be adding a bit of color to these little sections on the interior of this flower. So I'm switching back and forth between the fine tip embossing pen and the brush embossing pen. This will give me the best control in order to add these little punches of color. So as soon as I have these little areas colored in, I'll grab some scrap paper and start sprinkling on the embossing powder. Okay, that looks good. And as always, I will tilt this to make sure that we have got good cover in the areas that we want the embossing glaze on. So let's go ahead and grab our paper. We'll slip that right under here. I've got the embossing glaze, and we'll just sprinkle a bit there and sprinkle a bit over here. Then we'll just tap that off. Make sure I don't have any glaze in places I don't want it. That looks great. Set that aside. And of course, dump our extra glaze right back into the container. And I will set that off to the side. Okay, I'm going to put this part on mute as we heat emboss these two little sections. Okay, let's take a closer look. As we can see, we now have these little punches of color, and we have the shiny embossing glaze. All right, we're going to go ahead and put the rest of this on fast forward as I add color to the other pieces of this collage paper. Okay, we now have our background embossed with some distress glaze. That's looking great. Now let's go ahead and reattach our hardware. So this should be pretty straightforward. We're just going to line this up, and we're going to grab the two screws, and we're just going to put those back in. Just going to pop that right through the hole, put that there. I'm going to take this little piece, turn it on the side, and we're just going to turn that, hold that in place, and if I turn on the back, we can easily put our screws right back in. So pretty easy process. Good, that's one side. I don't need to do the thing too tight. Just want it to stay in place. And we'll stick this one in right here. Put the little cap on the other side and twist. Okay, pretty easy. I like that when stuff is really easy to disassemble and put back together. Makes the creative process that much simpler. All right, I'm liking the way this looks. Now let's go ahead and turn our attention to some die cuts. For die cuts today, we're going to be using the flowers, and then we will get into some focal points. But in the meantime, let's start with these. All right, let's start assembling some die cuts. Okay, not bad. We've got some florals all set up. So we will set these aside and let them dry. And now we're going to turn our attention to one of our main focal points. We're going to be playing with the new Tim Holtz die set, Paper Chicks Colorize. This is insanely cute, and since we're talking about spring, these seem like a wonderful addition to make to our project. So let's go ahead and start assembling our dies. We've got all these pieces already cut out. These I had die cut from some of the Distress Heavy White cardstock, and I had colored the backgrounds using some squeezed lemonade on this side and some Flickering Candlelight Distress Mica Spray Stain on this side. Down here we have some Distress Reinkers using Carved Pumpkin and Crackling Campfire, as well as a splash of black soot. Okay, let's go ahead and get these assembled. And here are our cute little paper chicks. These are absolutely adorable and are going to make a wonderful focal point. So we will set these off to the side. And now let's take a look at what we're using for our letter font. We're going to be adding some wording to our project, and for that we're going to be using the die set's alphanumeric tiny type. And of course we're going to be using the upper and lowercase. Okay, we have our die cut pieces. Let's go ahead and start putting these onto our substrate. For this piece right here, I decided to cut out a banner, and we decided to use some of the Tim Holtz wallpaper. Here is our banner piece. Let's go ahead and start adding our letters. For this part, we'll definitely be placing this on fast forward. Okay, now that we have all of our letters in place, it's time to start organizing our finished piece. I'm going to just move the camera out a little bit and turn this on its side. This is probably my favorite part of the piece. Once I have all of the components in place, it's time to start the assembly process. So to start this off, I'm going to be putting down my focal point first, which is going to be the little chicks. Right now, this is just a rough idea of what I want to do. This isn't really final. I'm just playing around, moving about pieces, and seeing what I like the looks of. So first, we're going to have the chicks placed. I definitely want them in the center. And now we're to put the sentiment. Up top isn't bad. Bottom to middle could be good. I don't know. I think I'm going to leave it floating up here for the moment. Let's get in some of the larger florals and see how that shifts the balance. Okay, if that goes there, we put this one over here. Maybe we move the blue one into the center. That way we're kind of like building up a little bit of a floral frame. No, I need some space between the reds. Okay, put that over here in the corner. This could get tucked over here. Move the chick over just a little bit. Okay, that's not bad. Now I want to add in more of the other little floral pieces that I've collected. And let's see, is this going to look better down here? No, I think I want that at the top. And I will see about adding in some other little elements. Okay. Ooh, the daisies could go right around the chicks, just like that. Okay, I'm liking that. Maybe this one can get tucked down here. And I'll have to shift these around a little bit. Make sure there's room for all of the florals to show. It's a little slippy slidey right now, but that's okay. Ooh, let's see. I think I want to continue the florals up just a little bit, but I want some smaller pieces. Oh, this one should be good. Maybe something longer. Oh, perfect. There we go. That will work out beautifully. Okay. I'm really liking that. Now, I'm still not sure about this one piece here. Maybe if I tuck that in almost behind here. But I don't want this to be too off-centered. Maybe like that, and then if I move that daisy up here, and that one there. Okay, this I'm starting to really like. And maybe I could just tuck in a few final florals up around the clipboard part, kind of almost in the backdrop. Okay, I like putting this over here. That gives me a little bit more of a border to work with. And tuck that piece there. Oh, and I've still got a nice little one over here. I can put that up near the top, and I think I've got a smaller one that could go right there. Perfect. Okay, so now I have got my basic arrangement, and let's go ahead and put this on fast forward while I attach all of these little pieces in place. Now, knowing my thought process, I might change my mind partway through and change things around just a little bit, but right now I'm really liking this layout. But I will leave myself room for it to evolve as we attach the pieces. And here is our finished project for the Funkie Junkie challenge. April showers bring May flowers. For this project, we have used flowers from Idea-ology, and we have die cut flowers from a variety of Tim Holtz die sets. These flowers have been altered with distressed glazes, sprays, inks, and paints. I hope that you are able to draw some inspiration from this project and will want to join us at the Funkie Junkie challenge blog for this week's challenge. We can't wait to see all of your fantastic creations. And if you are interested in playing, I will be leaving links down in the description box to join us over at the Funkie Junkie challenge blog. And if you wish to participate through Instagram, details for how to enter on Instagram will be there as well. Thank you so much for joining me here at the Crafty Corner. And until next time, happy crafting.